Hey guys, it's Abby. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 unbelievable but entirely true ghost stories. This is part 2 of the video I shared a few weeks ago where I shared a bunch of TikToks from this trend that is currently going around from the user Audacity, where she asks people to stitch her video with ghost stories that are unbelievable but entirely true. Since I posted that video, I've come across a couple more on my For You page, and you guys have tagged me in some as well, so I wanted to do a part 2 because I just cannot get enough of these. If you guys like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and click the subscribe button down below and turn my post notifications so you never miss a video. I post every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And without further ado, let's get right on into the video. Our first 2 stories are a part 1 and a part 2 by the user Lois Lane. She shares her first ever Ouija board experience story with us, of course, and she shares that her mom would not let her get a Ouija board, so she ended up making one herself, which personally is what I did when I had some pretty horrifying experiences too. She was playing with her friend and she asked a question that she knew no one would know the answer to. It is, what is her grandfather's middle name? Apparently only her dad, and her brother knew it, and he had passed away a few years prior. So she asked this question expecting no response, and then suddenly the planchette starts moving and starts to correctly spell out the name. She gets freaked out and removes her hands, but it continues to spell it with just her friend's hands on the planchette.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
When I was a sophomore in high school, my friend Laura and I made a Ouija board. And you may be asking yourself, basic question, I'm going to answer it now. Why did y'all do that? Short answer, my mom is really strict and wouldn't take us to go buy one, so I did what any teenager would do, and I made one, not thinking it was going to work. So we made a planchette, we made a board, and we did the whole shebang. We shut the blinds in broad daylight, we shut off my lights in broad daylight, we lit a candle, we had this like little table, it's actually in the corner of my room right now, that we played this on, and we started messing around. And we were asking questions that we both knew the answer to, and I was convinced Laura was pushing the planchette, and she was convinced I was pushing the planchette. And eventually, I'm like, I'm so sick of this because she's just messing with me, that I thought it was a good idea to ask a super far off question. And I said, verbatim, and I know this is not okay now, verbatim, if you're so real, what is my grandfather's middle name? And to many people, it's like, why is that so what? To my knowledge, there's only 3 people who know his middle name, and it is me, my biological dad, and my brother. And he had passed away 3 years prior to this. Like, it wasn't even on his obituary. And what do you know? The effing planchette is just sitting there on the board, like I said it was going to. And I was like, I effing knew it. Like, I knew she was pushing around. And right as I'm about to verbalize this to her, the freaking planchette starts moving. And he has 5 letters in his middle name, and the first letter matched it, second letter matched it, and on its way to the 3rd letter, I threw my hands up. I threw my hands up because it was too much, it was too concrete, and I did not like it, and it finished spelling it with Laura's hands on it. And I immediately was like, we have to say goodbye, and we did. We blew out the candle, I turned on all the lights, and we just went outside to get our mind off of it and take pictures. It is important to note, I remember shutting the effing lights off in my room. We're taking pictures, we're doing whatever, and all of a sudden we hear 3 knocks from inside of a window. And they're loud enough for us to hear outside. So my backyard is set up like this. We were taking pictures against the greenery in my backyard. This is the fence with all the greenery on it. This was my room with the window facing out towards the greenery that I lived in at the time in the basement of this house. And I was like, that's weird. It's probably my mom. She probably like knows that we were messing around. And we just went on with our day. And it happened again. Knock, knock, knock. Just like that. And I am so ticked off because it's scaring me that I go through my basement door, I march upstairs, I go into my mom's room, only to find her sleeping. And I know she was sleeping because she did the when I woke her up. And I'm like, why are you messing with Laura and I? That's not funny. And she had no idea what I was talking about. And the way my blood felt in that moment, chills all over my body. My ears are so hot right now just talking about this. And I go downstairs and get Laura, and I'm like, it was my mom. I believe her that she wasn't messing with us. Whatever that was, like, I'm never doing that again. Like, I cannot express to you how scary that was for me and how much it scared me, but it gets worse. After we talk about it briefly in the living room of my basement, we go inside of my room and find all of the effing lights on. And my closet door, it's a walk-in closet in the basement, wide open with the light on. Needless to say, I have not tried to contact anything. I have not made another Ouija board. I got rid of that Ouija board, and I will never, ever, ever mess with that stuff ever again. And I also haven't let Laura come back since then, because this was not the first time that I had a weird experience with her being there. And like I don't think I said this in the beginning, she's a very spiritually magnetic person, and we both believe that she is actually followed by 3 prominent spirits. And I wasn't comfortable with that. And everything that followed probably a month after was just not okay. So yeah, moral of the story, don't make Ouija boards.
That is such a freaky experience. I mean, the board spelling out the name of someone that they shouldn't know is bad enough, but then hearing knocking coming from inside your room while you're outside and returning to find all the lights on and your closet door open, like, it's actually terrifying to think that there's something just wandering around your room doing all these things and you have no idea. This story and the next one are why I'm a huge advocate of not messing with Ouija boards. So her second story that I'm going to share with you today is her boyfriend's story. And he also had an experience with a Ouija board, and she wanted to share it to kind of compare and contrast the two experiences. She says that he did not make the board like she did, nor did he play with the board. He showed up at his friend's house after his friends were done playing with their Ouija board. Now, this Ouija board that his friends had gotten, they found in one of their sister's room. And this Ouija board she got from an extremely haunted museum that she worked at. When Lane's boyfriend arrives, his friends say that the mudroom door he entered through has been opening and closing on its own, so he slams it shut and makes sure it's nice and secure. Later on, the mudroom door starts to open, and he blames it on his friend who had just walked by. But then the door proceeds to open all the way and slam on its own. The sister finds out they stole the Ouija board from her room, and she's obviously furious and says they never should have touched that and messed with it. They go outside, and as they're outside, the mudroom is completely destroyed.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go.
So you've probably seen my face under the stitch before. I have a lot of different stories, but before you watch this one, it's important you watch my Ouija board story before I tell you about my boyfriend's experience with a Ouija board and a poltergeist spirit. I only say that so we can compare and contrast my experiences and better confirm that we should not play with these things, because a lot of us don't know what the heck we're getting ourselves into. Some slight differences in the story. Obviously, I have always believed in spirits. He did not believe in spirits until this happened to him. Second, I physically made my board, and third, I physically touched my board. For him, he didn't touch it, and this board was already made. He was just there for the paranormal happenings following. And before I start this video, I just want to clarify what a poltergeist is. These are spirits that can physically move items that we see. So this is the doors opening, the doors slamming, the cabinets opening, your things going missing and moving. And for the sake of this video, my boyfriend's friends' names are Gage and Sean. So my boyfriend was already on the way to hang out with Gage and Sean had been hanging out earlier in the day, and they decided to play with this Ouija board that they found in Sean's sister's room. While my boyfriend was heading over there, he gets a text from Gage and Sean that essentially says, "You'll never believe this, but we've been watching this door open and close by itself." And specifically the door that had been opening by itself was the mudroom door, and when my boyfriend got there, he made sure to shut it hard. And he goes into the living room where Gage and Sean are, and they're literally sitting right next to each other, telling Andrew, "It's gonna open again, it's gonna open again." So they're hanging out, they're doing whatever. My boyfriend is making sure to keep looking at this door, like making sure that it's still closed once in a while. About 30 minutes passes, and Gage is like, "I'm thirsty, I'm gonna go get a glass of water," gets up, goes around the other side of the kitchen to avoid the door, gets a glass of water. My boyfriend looks down, looks back up, and the door is open about that much. Immediately, he's like, "I knew it, you guys are faking, because how is it possible that the door has been shut this whole time, but the moment Gage gets up, the door's open?" Gage flies around and he's like, we told you it had been opening before, it just didn't want to do it, and now it's doing it. And as they're all arguing over who opened the door, what's going on, whether to believe it or not, they hear the door creak. So they all whip their heads around and look down this hallway towards the mudroom, and they all watch this door swing open and slam shut. And my boyfriend specifically remembers the door slamming so hard it shook the house. So they all start freaking out. And after a while, after things calm down, my boyfriend approaches the door and Gage and Sean are behind him, and he tries to open the door. No luck. It won't budge. And around this time, Sean's sister gets home and is like, what are you guys up to? What are you guys even doing? And when Sean and Gage tell his sister what they had been up to and what they had done before Andrew got there, her face turns white. And a very important detail that I've left out until this point is that Sean's sister works at a very famous haunted museum in my town. And she had brought this board home from the museum that she worked at. I don't know why. I don't know if she had permission. I don't know because I wasn't there. But the important thing is that this board was now in their house and they had played with something that they weren't supposed to. So she starts panicking and telling them, you have no idea what you did. You have no idea what you were messing with. Essentially, I'm going to have to cleanse the house and let's just hope for the best. So eventually the four of them were able to open the door. And when they opened the door, everything in the mudroom had been taken off the walls, taken off the shelves, taken off the top of the laundry machines, thrown into the middle of the room, shoved against the door so they wouldn't be able to get in. Immediately, my boyfriend is like, no, I'm leaving. Goodbye. You guys are dumb for doing this. And he left. And that was that. From my understanding, Sean's sister cleansed the home and they didn't have any experiences after that. I don't know. However, I am going to make a separate video about my boyfriend's first experience with a run-in after taunting spirits. Specifically, another object from this museum that I talked about, and I've decided to leave the museum's name out completely because number one, I don't want anyone to get in trouble, and number two, the internet's a really weird, scary place, and I don't want this to get the wrong exposure, essentially, because it is a good museum, it's a good place, especially for people who are skeptical. However, I will give this clue. The museum in my town has a very haunted doll. When I say very haunted doll, I mean one of the most haunted dolls in America. And the doll is possessed by something that I can only assume is not a friendly spirit, because my boyfriend messed with the spirit and he got the horns. In short, don't mess with a Ouija board.
I feel like it's bad enough to play with a Ouija board to begin with, but to play with a Ouija board that is from a haunted museum, obviously there's something like really going on with that. I would not, I don't even know why she brought that home, but I would not be messing with that if I were those boys. That is like pure stupidity. I'm sorry, but like that is really, really dumb of them to do. And it is so good that they were able to get rid of whatever it is with a little bit of smudging. But obviously, like, it was a full-blown poltergeist, and it was something that was powerful to be able to, like, take everything off the walls and move furniture around in such a small time frame at that. Please don't mess around with Ouija boards. Like, I beg of you, do not touch them, do not play with them. Like, just leave them alone, please. It is really not worth it. Our next story is about the user Crazy Deals. He tells us a story from what he says is about 2005, 2006, so almost 20 years ago, which is kind of crazy to say that that was so long ago. He was in Duluth, Georgia. His mom was participating in a craft show and was setting up a booth there, and while she was doing so, he decided to wander around town and take a look at the shops nearby. He finds an interesting kind of witchy looking shop and he decides to go in, which I don't blame him because I would do the exact same thing. He goes in, he's looking around, and the shop lady asks him if he wants to go see the back. He says yes and comes with her. They go through this curtain and find this thing that he describes to be kind of like a Ouija board, but like triangle shaped, and there's like an eye in the middle that you look into. And you think of a question, and this thing answers. So he's testing it out, and it's answering questions correctly. And as he's about to leave to go and get his mom and his sister and show them, it seems like it's starting to ask him questions, like it doesn't want him to leave. He goes and gets his mom and his sister, and they don't believe him until they try it out for themselves. And both get correct answers to their questions. He stays and talks to it a little bit more. And on his way out, the shop owner asks him if he wants it. He says that she offers it to him for free, but he turns it down, and she says that this is a decision that he will regret. He says the next day he decides to go back and take her up on the offer because he wants his friends to believe him when he tells them the story, but when he goes back, the shop is not there.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Whoa, did I make a mistake? It was around 2005 or 2006. My family and I went to an arts and crafts show in Dillinger, Georgia. My mom had a booth there, and it was a weekend kind of deal. We got there a day early to set up, but the following day, it was around noon. I decided I was going to go walk around and look at other people's booths and to go try to find some food. There was this like really unique street with some like local mom and pop shops. I decided that I was going to go walk down, see what they had to offer. You know, it's a little quaint town, kind of looked like it was straight out of a movie. So I started going down the street to these stores, and I came across this one shop that looked really interesting. It had like muted earth tones, kind of not vibrant at all. There were store closing signs, and it kind of looked like a bookstore. So I was like, okay, I'll go in and check this out, see what's going on. So I walk in, and I'm greeted by this lady who's wearing all black. She has like this lace sleeves that go like all the way down, and it goes like over her fingers. Anyway, she had like a goth vibe, neither here nor there, but that's kind of the vibe of the whole place. So I walked around, I started looking at the books, and I noticed that most of them were all like witchcraft books, and there were like a lot of those healing crystals. And anyway, so none of that really interests me. I was getting ready to leave, and the lady stopped me and she said, hey, did you go look at the back room? And I said, no, I didn't see a back room. And she said, right over there. And she pointed to these like really big ornate red curtains. And she was like, yeah, it's just back there. So I said, okay, well, I'll go check it out, see what's back there. So I walked back there, and she followed like closely behind me, and she said, hey, I want to show you something. And I said, okay, sure. She takes me over to this triangle that's on a stand. This triangle is wooden, and it has like this eye carved into the center. Around the eye was the alphabet and numbers 0 through 9. Around the outside of the triangle, there's like this dial with this pointer. And one could assume that the pointer was to like spell out words. It looked kind of similar to a Ouija board, but in triangular form, if that makes any sense. But anyway, the lady asked me if I wanted to try something fun, which I said, sure. So she asked me to think of a question, but don't give it to her. Don't say it out loud. She told me to look at the triangle, look like right into the eye of the triangle, and think of the question, but really focus and think of the question. And then she said that she would leave me for a little bit and come back and check on me. So I did. I looked straight into the triangle eye and looked and thought of my question. And I did this for a few minutes, nothing happened, and I was like, this is stupid. Like, I'm the biggest skeptic of these things anyway, so I didn't believe anything was going to come from it. But as I was about to walk off, the dial starts moving on its own. Now, remind you, she did tell me not to touch the triangle. Everything had to be done like on its own, so without any interference by me whatsoever. I looked at the triangle, the dial starts moving, it goes to the letter M, and then proceeds to spell out my name, Michael. It did that all by itself. That super freaked me out, and I was just kind of dumbfounded that this was actually real. So I stayed there for probably an hour, like asking different questions to this thing, and every single time it got them right and it was moving on its own. I was super enamored by this thing at this point, and I was like, okay, I need to go get my mom and my sister so they can vouch for me that I'm not crazy and that this is actually doing this on its own and answering the questions. So I decide that I'm going to leave and go get them. But as I start to leave, this triangle starts moving again, trying to keep me there, I guess. But I didn't ask it any questions this time. It started asking me questions. It asked me if I wanted to know my future. It asked me if I wanted to know the day that I would die. Then it asked me if I wanted to be friends. To which I said no to all of them. No, thank you. No. But anyway, against my better judgment, I went and got my mom and my sister. They did not want to come with me at first. They thought I was weird for like even going in there in the first place, and I shouldn't be going into witchcraft, blah, blah, whatever. Anyway, but I was so convicted and serious in what had happened that my mom and sister came along against their better judgment as well. So they come back in the store with me. The lady greets us. She's like, I know why you're here. And I go walk to the back of the store. I take my mom and my sister over. My sister's the first one to give it a try. She looks into the eye. I explain everything. Don't touch it. Just think of your question. And she asked, like, how old am I? Like, in her mind, she thought it. And it gave the answer. She was freaked out. She said, done. I'm done with this. So then my mom thought that, like, my sister and I were playing a prank. So she was like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. I don't believe either of you. Like, this is ridiculous. So she does it, and she asked what the name of her parents were, and it gave it to her. So by this point, she was freaked out. My mom and my sister were like, peace out, we're leaving, bye. I decided to stay and play around with it for a little bit longer, just because I was just so, like, into it at this point. The lady, the shop owner, I guess, she comes up to me and she says that she can tell that the triangle has built a connection to me, and she wanted to offer it to me for free. Take it with me. And I told her, no, thank you. I really don't need to get any more involved with this than I already have. And she said, this may be a long-term decision that you will regret. And I was like, well, that's kind of threatening, but no thanks. I really don't. I appreciate it, but no thanks. So I leave. She tells me bye. I say bye to her. Then the next day, I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Maybe I will go back and get it, and I'll take it and show my friends, so my friends will know that I'm not crazy when I tell them this story. I go back, I walk over to the store, and the store is gone. There's no signs, there's no product, there's nothing in this store, and on top of that, it looks like it's been run down and been sitting there for a very long time. What? Okay, that's weird. So most people would say that their story ends at this point, and that was just a weird thing that happened. This was just the beginning. All of this started happening around 2005. Until this very day, things are still happening. Stay tuned. I have more stories. It gets way crazier from here.
Can you even believe that? It sounds like a plot to a movie. I mean, and there's just so many things that it's like, who am I to talk? Because I absolutely would have been intrigued as well. But like following a lady to the back behind some suspicious curtain to some like Ouija board looking device and then having like interactions with it is kind of crazy and like probably shouldn't have been done. But I guess it's fine because he's like safe or whatever. But it's just like, it's very much like if it were a movie, I'd be like, oh my God, do not do that. Like I'd be screaming at the screen telling them not to go back there. And the way I'm like picturing this is like in Harry Potter when he uses the flute powder wrong and accidentally goes to Nocturne Alley and he's like hiding in there while like Draco's with his dad. I'm like picturing that kind of a shop and like that creepy hand thing. I don't know why, but that just like keeps popping into my head. I'm like getting that vibes from this store, which I'm just like, that's how I'm envisioning this whole thing, and I think it makes it even creepier. But the fact that like his mom and his sister were also a witness to this thing working and it wasn't just like him imagining things or anything. And then the shop disappearing, there's so many aspects of the story that doesn't make sense. And I wonder why this lady wanted to just give him this thing for free. I don't know, like to me that's suspicious, giving it away for free. I'm glad he said no and you know, didn't go back until the shop magically disappeared and he couldn't get it anymore, because I really don't think it would have been good if he brought that thing home. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? Our next two stories are by the user Steph324. In the first story we're going to talk about, she has an experience in Chicago. She is a realtor there. She is showing a client a building from back in the 1920s. In this building, they have a few portraits of the famous gangster John Dillinger and his wife. Apparently they met in this building back in the day. Her client seems to really, really like it. But on the way back down the elevator, a woman walks in. They ask her what floor, and she says nothing. They ask her how she likes the building, and she says nothing. She turns, and they see that she has very, very thin eyebrows, a pronounced Cupid's bow, and a very waxy-looking face. When the elevator stops at the 12th floor, she gets out, and as she gets out, Steph sticks her head out of the elevator and peers around the corner, and the woman is not there. She's just disappeared. When Steph gets back on the elevator, the leasing agent of the building informs them that they've just seen John Dillinger's wife.
Okay, so my thing is glitching, but I've seen like these Audacity stitches about ghosts, and I've had a couple of ghost experiences since I've been like 16, and I'm gonna tell one. So my first one was in Spain when I was 16, but I'm gonna start off with like the most recent one that's like fresh in my brain. So I have always kind of believed in ghosts, but this was the one that like really stuck with me. So I worked as a realtor in Chicago for like a year, and you get to work with some really cool buildings. And I had a client that wanted to see a bunch of high rises, but she wanted to see one historical building in particular. And it's really, really uncommon to find a high rise or like even a mid rise that is historical in Chicago that's like a managed building, because that's what I primarily worked in. And she wanted something that had like 20 floors or more. And so I found this building, she found this building. She's like, can you tour it? And I was like, sure. So we looked at like 2 new construction high rises, and she's like, I like it, it just doesn't have the character that I'm looking for. And like, bear with me, this is all relevant to the story. So she was like, these are great, but they just don't have the character I'm looking for. So we skipped the other 3 buildings that I had to show her, and I took her straight to this like mid-rise in the Loop that was built, I think in like 1904. And it had, I think, 20 floors, don't quote me on this. But I'm not gonna say the building, because even though I had a ghost experience in this building, I would 100% live here. And I don't want people to not rent there because of a ghost story. So we get to the building, and she's like in love with the outside already. And then we go in the lobby, and like I could tell she's sold. I was sold. And we meet the leasing agent, and you know, we're walking towards the, you know, the leasing agent for the property that lets you into the unit and show you the unit and stuff. And we're walking towards the elevator bank, and there's a picture of John Dillinger and his wife. And if you're not from Chicago, you're not familiar with John Dillinger, he is like a really famous gangster that was also famous like Al Capone, and was gunned down in an alley. They made the movie Public Enemies with Johnny Depp about him. And he and his wife were in pictures on either side of like the hallway that led to the elevator. And the leasing agent was like, oh yeah, this used to be the German Cultural Center, and they had a lot of galas. And if you remember that scene in Public Enemies where Johnny Depp meets Marianne Cotillard's character at like the coat rack, they met in real life at the building that we were touring that is now an apartment building. And so I'm a history buff. I was like, oh my God, that's so exciting. Like, John Dillinger met his wife here, you know, he's in psychopath, but like part of Chicago history. And my client was totally roped in. So we go upstairs, and they made the ballroom, have not changed a thing, like flooring, chandeliers, they just moved gym equipment in. It's so pretty. And then we go up and we look at the pool, and it's an original 1920s pool. They have not changed a single thing. It's like tiling, everything is so, it's like you stepped into a time capsule. And we were just like blown away, me and my client. I was like, if you don't take it, I will. And we go and see the unit, and I don't remember what floor it was on. It was on a higher floor because it was up past the L. And I think I mentioned that this building was in the Loop, because that's important, because that's where you get some more historical buildings. She loved the unit. She's like, it was a little dark, but it had like domed windows and like vaulted ceilings, and it was just chef's kiss, perfect unit, huge, huge for a 1-bed. And she was like, oh, I think I'm gonna take it. And I was like, awesome, love it, loved the client, loved the unit. What is there to like be upset about? We get in the elevator. And I press the 9th floor. And then as the doors are closing, this woman gets in the elevator, and she's like really short. I mean, I'm 6 feet tall, and so everybody's a little short to me, but she was really short, and she was wearing like this pleated maroon skirt and like this buttoned up tight-ish blazer that was also maroon, and like these little heels. And I was like, you know, in Chicago you see people that dress like very thrift store chic, and so I was like, maybe this is one of those girls. And so I was like, what floor? She just doesn't answer me. And my client is like, what floor? She doesn't answer her. And the leasing agent is like, and I was like, so the woman just doesn't press a floor. the doors close. We're going down the floors, and then I was like, oh, do you live here? Like, how do you like the building? Because I'm like, nudge, nudge, like, tell me about the building. And the woman just doesn't answer. And I don't think I mentioned that the elevator got really cold when she walked in, like 20-degree temperature drop. And the woman's just not answering me. And so I just turn and I take a closer look at her face, and she had like the really maroon lipstick. You know, if you Google like a picture of like Marlene Dietrich, the actress in like the 20s, or like Mae West, that makeup, like super thin eyebrows, very defined lips with like the very defined Cupid's bow. And I was like, people don't do their makeup like that anymore. You know, like that's just not something that you see on the street. And her face was like really like pale and like waxy looking. And my client just kind of started to like freak out. And then our elevator just stops, and she gets out on like the 12th floor. And I know you guys were like, the 13th. No, it was the 12th. And I was like, okay, have a good day. She just gets out of the elevator, walks very smoothly, or not say it was a glide, and just turns and goes right. And I get out of the elevator and I look, and the woman's gone. The woman is gone. She's not in the hallway. And I did not get out of the elevator with enough time for her to like have gone into an apartment. So that was not a person. And then the elevator just gets warm again. Super warm. This was also July. The elevator doors close, and the leasing agent is like freaking out. She's like, I'm so sorry. Like that's, you know, and it immediately like 2 and 2 was John Dillinger's wife. It was the lady from the picture. This lady from the picture. And the leasing agent is like, sometimes people see her. Sometimes people see her. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't do anything. And then my client is like, oh my God, I knew something was up. I knew something was up. And at first she was like, it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't really bother me. And the leasing agent is like, yeah, sometimes like people see her in the laundry rooms, and like, you know, they'll like see her, you know, outside apartment doors. And that was when my client was like, So she went with one of like the classic like all glass high rises, and she was a great client, but she got spooked. So yeah, that's one of my ghost stories. That's the most recent one. That was in 2022. And yeah, that was crazy. That was really crazy. It was really cool. Also, if you're like from Chicago and you're able to figure out what building I'm talking about, please don't dox it and move there, because she's a harmless ghost. She's historical, and everything that I've heard, she seems pretty chill. So yeah.
Honestly, for some reason, all I got from this story was I really want to see the building, and I kind of want to live there. Like, for those of you who don't know, like, I'm from the Chicago suburbs originally, and I love the city. Like, it, in my opinion, is the most beautiful city in the world. I love it so much. And definitely I'm more of a suburbs girl, but I also would love to live in the city sometime, and living in such a historic building like that would be honestly kind of a dream. So if anything, it kind of just makes me curious about the building, and I want to check it out for myself. But also, I think that is so cool that they saw her. Like, I don't even think it's scary. I think it is so cool that they saw her there. I don't know, to be honest, like, maybe I'm just weird, but I think that would really be a selling factor for me. The second story I'm going to share with you from this creator is completely unrelated to the first. In this story, she says that she is on Mackinac Island with her parents. If you don't know, Mackinac Island is in Michigan and is a very historic island. You have to take a ferry to get there from the mainland, and there are no cars allowed on the island. I've actually been here with my parents and my brother years and years and years ago, and it was such a cool trip. The trip starts off strong when they find out that their cottage was built over the island's one unsolved murder scene, and the woman's body was actually found at the cottage next door to them. While they were riding around in a horse-drawn carriage, her dad looks and says, "Who is that sitting behind Stephanie?" And when they all turn, they're like, no one's behind her. The man, I want to say driving, but driving's not the right word. The man who is in control of the horse-drawn carriage says that they have lots of experiences of soldiers just kind of hopping on and taking a ride for a bit and then hopping off whenever they feel like it. Because of this event, her mom decides the next day to sign them up for a ghost tour, like a full-blown lockdown ghost tour. And they have a pretty crazy experience there as well.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go.
Hello, it's me, back for part 2. I didn't think people were actually going to be interested in hearing more, because like the top stitch of that video is a woman who had a demon baby living in her house. A demon baby. So you can understand why I don't know why people want to hear more of my stories. But I got a lot of people. There was 4,000 people that saw my video and counting.
And that was really cool that people were like, I want to hear more stories because I have a decent amount. So I'm going to tell a big one that happened to my dad, and it also happened to my mom. So some background, because that is important for the story. My family didn't do like European vacations growing up. We would go to Florida, yes, but we are big history buffs, and we were more interested in going on like historical tours of like historically significant sites. So like Jamestown, Yorktown, Williamsburg, Gettysburg, the Alamo, places like that. I ate that up. That was me. I'm like a weird kid. I mean, I'm 28. I'm not a kid, but I was a weird kid and continue to be. So also, we are a big military family. My dad is a Vietnam veteran. I wear his friend who went missing in Vietnam, his POW bracelet, my POW MA bracelet. And so we're, big into like the military stuff. So one summer, we decided to go to this place called Mackinac Island, which is in Michigan. You can only get there once you get up to Mackinac City. You have to take like a ferry that's like 30 minutes to the island, and it's old. It was the site of a Revolutionary War battlefield. Very historic, very haunted, and it's stunning. No cars are allowed on the island. It's all original like architecture. Like they use horse and buggies as like their Ubers. I mean, it's so freaking pretty. So yeah, it's really, really cool. And part of the haunted is that right below the Revolutionary War fort that is right on like the green when you get off the ferry is a massive green space where people like play like frisbee and like I'm sure pickleball now, but it's been a long time since I've been there. And it was a ancient Indian burial ground that in like the early 1900s they decided, let's just dig them up and dump them in the lake. And so yeah, that probably doesn't help with the activity on the island. So my parents booked a cottage at the very top of the island, which is like a 2-mile bike. Most people bike around the island. And or a 2-mile, horse and buggy ride. And so to get up there, you had to pass a battlefield. And it's very dark at night. There's like no lights. And our cottage was actually built on the site of the island's unsolved murder. And our cottage was the cottage right next to where they found the girl's body, unalived. So interestingly enough, nothing ever happened with that. We didn't have any experiences in that place. But yeah, so that was wild. But one night, anyway, we were at dinner, and it was like it wrapped up at like 11:30. We were staying out. We were just kind of like hanging and talking with people. And my dad was like, "Okay, we don't want to walk. We don't want to bike. It's dark. There's no trail lights going up to this cabin villa place." So we get a dude that has a horse and buggy. He's like an older guy that's been driving it for 30 years, and he's like, hop on it. So we hop in. It's my dad in the front with him. They're chatting away. The horse, he's not saying much. And then me and my mom in the second row in the back, and then there's one row behind us that doesn't have any seats. And this, I don't know if I said this, but this was the year before my sophomore year of high school, so I was about 15. And my mom and I were just like, quiet, we're tired. She had wine. She's like, I'm tired. So my dad, as I said, Vietnam veteran, he's very jaded, skeptic, quiet, occasionally angry. And I hear him gasp. And this shocks me because my dad doesn't believe in anything. I mean, he doesn't believe in anything. He's not scared of things. He doesn't believe in anything. He thinks ghosts are crap. He's scared of people because he's like, people are the greatest animals of all. And I'm like, preach, I agree that. But he shrieks and he's like, who is sitting behind Stephanie? And I was like, no one's sitting behind me, Dad. And he's like, there was somebody sitting behind Stephanie. And we're passing this like big open field. And the driver looks back and he's like, oh, well, what did he look like? My dad describes him. And he's like, yeah, we have a couple of Revolutionary War soldiers. He's like, I'll be driving people up and down to the cottages, and he'll just sit in the back and he'll just get out when he feels like it. And I'll see him in like my rearview mirror. My dad had nothing to say to this. He did not know how to react. He didn't like know what to say. He's like, I don't know how to explain that, but there was somebody behind Stephanie, and he maintains that to this day. He's like, I don't know how to explain it. Ghosts are total crap, but there was a man in colonial garb behind Stephanie. So on to the next story. The next day, my mom was like, that was so cool. So she goes down and she signs us up for a ghost tour, but it wasn't just a ghost tour. It was like a paranormal ghost hunt, and like a Ghost Adventures, like lockdown style. So we hustle down the mountain, I'm like, we're going by the battlefield, like wave. I'm like, hey, hope I don't see you tonight. Like, no offense. And just in case, the soldier was there, it's like, go rest, be at peace. Anyway, we go down assemble with the ghost crew. There's like 3 other families, and they tell us that they're going to an old soundstage, which is probably the most active place on the island. So I'm like, this is sick, right? Like, this is awesome. So background, again, they filmed a movie called Somewhere in Time on the Island, and the cast was so insistent that they were having like ghost experiences that they made production shut down and they refused to film in that soundstage or on the island. So they moved production for a movie that was based on the island to be moved off the island because they were so scared. So apparently the soundstage, they go in, they tell us the history. It's built on, shockingly, an old Indian burial ground. And a guy used to work in it named Harvey, and his wife left him for another guy that worked in the soundstage, and he himself and haunts it. And there was something to do with a fire. So they lock us in. It's pitch black. They pull out like all the sound machines and stuff. And I'm like, I don't, always been interested by ghosts, but I'm like, I don't want to get like bit by one, So they start telling us that one of the things that the actors would experience was burns on their body in the shape of a handprint, like 3rd-degree burns. And they were so alarmed by this, they'd have to get medical care. I mean, it was like bubbling burns in the shape of a male handprint. And that was when the cast was like, enough. And so they start turning on the machines. And after about 5 minutes, I hear my mom go, "Ow, God." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "I think I got bit by something." So anyway, fast forward, we didn't see anything, shocker. And we go back up the mountain, top the island, go to bed. Everything's fine. We think mom got bit by a bug, whatever. Wake up in the morning, I hear a blood-curdling scream. Run down the hallway. My mom's in the bathroom. She has her nightgown lifted up. I can see her calf. There is a man-sized, I swear on my grandfather's life, there was a man-sized handprint on my mother's, handprint burn on my mother's calf. And, like, complete, like that. She's freaking out. So she's like, go get my camera. My mom was really big into taking pictures on these trips. She had this massive Canon camera. I take a picture of it. And she's like, we need to go down. I think my dad was fishing or something. He wasn't in the cottage. So we go down to the paranormal place and we're like, is this what the actors were experiencing? And they're like, this is exactly what they were experiencing. You need to also go get medical care. We couldn't get into the little clinic on the island. So my mom basically just bandaged it up, put some Neosporin on it. Was very freaked out. And so we get back to the cottage. My dad's there. Where were you guys? And my mom was like, look at this, Stephanie. She's like, this is what it looks like now. Still terrible, but she unwraps it. But she's like, I want to show you how it looked this morning. I go and get the camera, pull up the pictures from the morning. Her leg's there. The pictures that I took are there. The pictures of the burns are not. The burns are not on the leg. The burns disappeared out of the photos. So like you could see them on her leg in person. You couldn't see them on the photos. They were not in a single photo. To this day, they're not in the photos from the trip. All the pictures I took where there should have been a burn are in the memory card, but the burn is out of the picture. So yeah, my mom had that happen to her. Traumatized her so bad. She still has a scar on her leg. Traumatized her so bad. I mean, this thing would not go away. She won't watch a horror movie. She won't watch a ghost movie if there's anything demonic. I mean, she won't even turn on a Ghost Adventures in the house. And yeah, that was the last time we ever went on a ghost tour, and scared the crap out of all of us. Not enough out of me to never go again, but that also didn't happen to me. But yeah, it disappeared out of the photos. And yeah, my mom had a phantom poltergeist burn on her leg. So I have more stories. This is super fun, just getting to do this. So if you would like to hear, I actually have the biggest one that is bigger than this one, took place in Spain. So if anybody wants to hear it, let me know. If not, thanks for asking to hear more stories. And yeah, these are our ghost adventures.
Again, maybe I'm just weird, but this really makes me want to go back there. I did not have any experiences when I was there with my family. I honestly was unaware that there was such a paranormal history on the island. I don't know why exactly, because I absolutely would have eaten that up even back in the day. But the thing out of all of this that sticks out to me the most is the fact that the burn was not shown in the photo. Like, that would be something that I would not be able to wrap my head around, that I saw a burn in person, took a photo of it, and later looking back at the photos, it's not there. Like, I don't even know how that is possible. Because it's not even like you're taking a picture of a ghost and the ghost isn't real. Or like, I guess the ghost is real, but like, it's not even like you're taking a picture of a ghost and the ghost doesn't show up on camera. It's like there was a burn on her body. How can that just not be in the photo? That really makes no sense to me. To me, that's like the scariest and like most mind-blowing part of the whole thing. I think the fact of like the soldiers kind of like hopping along for the ride a little bit is actually kind of funny and overall just like more interesting than scary. But I'm really curious as to how I can sign up for one of these ghost tours, because quite honestly, like I've been intrigued by both of these stories. I'd really love to take a look at that apartment complex, and I think I'm going to be talking to my parents about maybe taking another family trip to Mackinac Island. Our final TikTok of this video is by the user Sarah V. Costi, and she shares a paranormal experience she had while she was staying with her sister in a hostel in Italy. So she starts by explaining that her sister lost a pair of earrings, or had a pair of earrings go missing from their hostel, which is weird, confusing, but they kind of just like moved past it. That night, they're sleeping. Sarah wakes up and she's confused because the wall looks different. So she puts on her glasses and realizes that it's because their door is wide open. So she immediately goes over there, shuts and locks the door, and is looking around and realizes nothing was taken. She eventually makes it back to bed, and the next morning she shares with her sister what happened. And her sister notices that her earrings are sitting on her perfectly folded clothes that she placed there from the night before. That day, while they're out exploring, their GoPro stops working. They get back that night, plug it in, and it looks like it's starting to wake up. And the next morning, when they go to unplug the GoPro and take it out for the day, it says SIM card full, which they think is weird. When they go to investigate, they find 12 7-minute long videos of them sleeping.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
My sister and I are staying in a hostel in Rome, and she has lost a pair of earrings. We're just in a tiny room by ourselves, and we are tearing this room apart. We have looked through her entire suitcase, my suitcase, all of her clothes, all of my clothes, in the corners, in between the mattresses. Could not find these earrings anywhere. We thought that they were lost, or they hadn't even made it to our hostel. We go to sleep that night. I had nightmares. Surprisingly for me, I really don't have a lot of nightmares. And this particular morning, I woke up with my head at the foot of the bed. Also never what happens to me. I have terrible eyesight, so when I open my eyes, everything is just shapes and colors. And I look over to where I should see a white wall, and I realize it's brown. Why is it brown? I grab my glasses, I look, the door is open. The door to our Roman hostel is wide open as the two of us are sleeping. My father used to say, it's not the dead you should be afraid of, it's the living. And at this particular moment, I don't care about spooky stuff. I'm worried about real people right now. Because I look around the room as I'm shutting the door, and it is a burglar's buffet, okay? iPads, jewelry, wallets, passports, literally whatever you want, mwah, it was there for them. Nothing was moved, nothing was touched, everything was right where it should be. So I shut the door, try not to wake up my sister, and I go into the bathroom, put my hands on the side of the sink like you do when you're in college and you're super drunk and you're trying to tell yourself that you're not. And I look in the mirror and I say, it was a coincidence. Luckily, we're okay. None of our stuff is touched. Whether it was a person or, I don't know, something weird, doesn't matter. The door's closed, we're safe. I'm not gonna tell her because that is something that she would not appreciate me telling her. By the time I get out of the bathroom, she is up and she looks at me and she goes, "Oh my God, Sarah, look!" And she points to her folded pile of clothes, which we put there the night before, and the pair of earrings is placed perfectly on top of them. And I look at her and I say, I have to tell you something really upsetting about our door. That next day we are walking around Rome. It is middle of July, it's probably 100 degrees. Her little GoPro that she has dies. She's panicked because she's afraid it's broken, and I'm like, no, you know what, it's probably overheated. I'm overheated. We take it back that night, we plug it in, and we say, all right, everything's fine, it just needs to charge. Look at it, it's waking up. We'll just let it sit overnight. That next morning, we go to look as we're getting ready to leave for the day and take photos on our GoPro, and it says SIM card full. And we're like, no, that's weird. So we go to start. I hate this story. We go to start looking at the photos that have filled up our SIM card. The GoPro was plugged into the wall on my nightstand. From where we just randomly put it, it had a view of us. And on the GoPro, there were 12 7-minute long videos of just us sleeping. The thing that I will always regret and I will always be angry with her for, and she never apologizes for it, is that we started to watch them, and as soon as we heard the quiet sound of us both breathing as this GoPro filmed us, she deleted all of it. She went, boom, 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 gone, done. I want nothing to do with those ever again. And in the moment, I was like, you know what? That's a great decision. But now, 7-something years later, I kind of want to know what was on them. Maybe.
I so wish that they wouldn't have deleted those videos. I mean, I know obviously they need a storage to like take their photos and stuff, but God, I wish that they wouldn't have deleted those videos. Even if they didn't look at them at the time because it'd be too scary to look at it like real time while they're still staying at this place, there's no way I could have just deleted those and not looked at them. Like, I would need to know what every single second of that video was. So I am like so bummed that they're not able to share those with us. But to me, that's like the damning evidence of this whole thing. Obviously, it is very, very weird. Like, if it were a human that opened their door and didn't steal anything, like, why would you bother opening the door and just like place the earrings back on the clothes? Like, that doesn't really make sense. But also, people are weird, so like, maybe. But obviously, how did their GoPro take a bunch of videos of them in the middle of the night? Like, again, it could be a human, but like, that is even more unlikely. Like, especially the fact that it's so unlikely that a human snuck in and was able to sit there for 7 minutes, 12 different times, and not have anyone notice that they're in there. Like, to me, that is pretty much impossible. I just, like, I understand why they were so freaked out, obviously. Like, you're in a foreign country, and it seems like someone is breaking into your safe space. Like, that is not even remotely, like, a good feeling. That is so, so scary. Like, I think it, like, the aspect of being overseas really, really adds to that, like, fear of it. I totally get why they're like scared, but I really, really wish we were able to watch those videos. Or like if they were able to at least be like, nope, there was nothing in the videos that was worth seeing. It was just us sleeping. Like, that's creepy enough. But like, what if there was like, I don't know, like an orb, or even like at worst, like what if there was like a shadow person that walked by? Like, who knows what was in those videos? And I really bummed that we don't get to know the contents. But either way, like, just such a freaky experience. But that is all I have for this video. Let me know what you guys think of each of these stories and which one is your favorite. Again, like I said, I really appreciate you guys tagging me in TikToks that you find, and if there are any that you come across that you would like to share with me, my links are down below. Feel free to tag me in them and I will include them in a future video. If you guys liked this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. I will pop a couple suggestions up here on the screen in a second if you want to watch something similar. And please don't forget to click the subscribe button. I will also put one up here for your convenience. And turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I post every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week. Bye.